Can a truck engine really last forever? Some of these vintage beasts come pretty close. They're still running hard while today's trucks throw warning lights. And wait till you hear about number 12. It might be the most bulletproof engine ever made. Stick around because that one's a total sleeper. 1. 1990 Toyota pickup, Toyota Hilux. The Hilux is more than a truck. It's a global legend. Built to be abused, it gained a reputation for being unkillable. Mechanics in Australia, Africa, and even war zones swear by it. Under the hood was the 2.4-liter 22R engine. Simple, naturally aspirated, with cast iron everything. It wasn't powerful, but it could run on bad fuel, sit for years, and start without hesitation. Top Gear famously tried drowning it, dropping it from a building, and even setting it on fire. It survived. That wasn't just TV drama. It was a real-world demonstration of just how insanely overbuilt this truck was. Go to a developing country, and you'll still see Hiluxes hauling lumber, carrying families, and crawling through mountains like it's nothing. One owner put over 600,000 miles on his without ever opening the engine. That's not reliability. That's mechanical immortality. 2. 1986 Ford F-150 4.9-liter inline 6. Ford nailed it with the 4.9-liter inline 6. If you had one of these in the 80s or early 90s, you know exactly what we're talking about. It had the kind of low-end torque that made towing feel effortless, and the engine was as simple as a hammer. It was a naturally balanced inline design, and it didn't rely on computers to keep it running. Just basic spark, fuel, and air, and it would go forever. People ran these trucks into the ground, only to realize they were still running fine. Some used them for farming, others for commercial fleets. One guy famously drove his F-150 for 500,000 miles doing construction work and still passed emissions testing. Try that with a new truck loaded with sensors. This engine is a perfect example of they don't build them like they used to. 3. 1995 Dodge Ram, 2500, 5.9-liter 12-valve Cummins. When Dodge dropped the 12-valve Cummins into the Ram 2500, the game changed forever. Suddenly, you had a diesel engine in a light-duty truck that could rival semis in torque and reliability. The 5.9-liter inline 6 was mechanical, which meant no complex computers or electronics to fail. The injection pump was legendary for being bulletproof. And let's not forget, it was forged steel inside. No aluminum fluff. These engines regularly go 400,000 to 600,000 miles with routine maintenance. And if you're willing to rebuild them, they'll go even further. Truckers, farmers, off-roaders, they all love the 12-valve. It towed massive loads without breaking a sweat and idled like a champ in the cold. It's not uncommon to see these trucks still earning a living 30 years later. And because of its cult following, parts and support are still everywhere. This truck wasn't just a good idea, it was a revolution. 4. 1984 Chevrolet CK Series, 350 small block at the I-8. The Chevy 350 small block is the most swapped, rebuilt, and praised American I-8 of all time. It was in everything: Corvettes, Camaros, vans, and of course, Chevy trucks. In the CK series, it made these workhorses feel bulletproof. The 1984 models had the simplicity of old-school carburetors and mechanical fuel pumps, but they could handle modern upgrades too. What made the 350 special was its balance of power and reliability. It had just enough grunt to do serious towing, but was simple enough for shade tree mechanics to rebuild in a weekend. With a cast iron block and forged crank, it was built to take abuse. You could overheat it, limp it home, and it would still restart the next day. People ran these trucks through mud, snow, and heat, and they just refused to give up. Even today, you can find CKs with original engines still running strong. That's staying power. 5. 1972 Dodge Power Wagon, 225 slant 6. This truck might look like a brute, but its engine was a quiet genius. The 225 slant 6 was named for the angle it sat at, tilted 30 degrees, giving it a low center of gravity and better airflow. But more importantly, it was durable to the core. No complicated valve timing, No finicky electronics, just cast iron and simplicity. This was the truck for people who needed something to start on the coldest winter morning, drive 80 miles of rough dirt roads, and haul feed all day without missing a beat. Ranchers loved it. Mechanics called it the million-mile motor. It had 7 main bearings, heavy-duty cooling, and a slow, steady idle that made it near impossible to stall. Even when the body rusted out, the engine kept humming. That's why these trucks are still running on back roads across America. 6. 1987 Nissan D21 hardbody, Z24 engine. In the 80s, Japan was killing it with compact, indestructible pickups, and the Nissan hardbody might have been the best of the bunch. Its nickname wasn't just marketing, it really did have a tougher bed and frame than most competitors. But what made it legendary was the Z24 inline-4 engine. Simple carburetor design, cast iron block, and a reputation for surviving everything. Owners pushed these trucks past 300,000 miles without opening the engine once. And if something did go wrong, parts were cheap and repairs were easy. It became the go-to truck for tradesmen, small business owners, and even the military in some countries. Still today, these trucks are seen bouncing around in rural towns, delivering firewood or hauling equipment. Reliable, efficient, and low-key indestructible. That's the D21. What makes these engines last forever? So what's the common thread here? Simplicity. Before modern trucks were packed with sensors, radars, screens, and computers, they were made from metal and muscle. The engines on this list are naturally aspirated or basic turbo diesels. Most use cast iron blocks, forged pistons, and old-school cooling systems. They didn't need perfect fuel. They didn't shut down because a wire was loose, and they were built to be fixed by regular people, not laptops. That's why these trucks are still around, still earning their keep, and still refusing to die. 7. 1994 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 6.5-liter Detroit diesel. The 6.5-liter Detroit diesel doesn't get much love these days. But back in the 90s, it was a trusted engine in countless work trucks and government vehicles. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't the strongest diesel, but it got the job done day in and day out. These engines had surprisingly good torque for their time and were more fuel efficient than people expected. The secret to their longevity? Basic maintenance and not pushing them too hard. Military-grade reliability in a civilian truck. What's not to love? People who babied these engines got well over 400,000 miles, and they were in everything, from Suburbans to ambulances. It's an underrated diesel that still has loyal fans. 8. 1978 Ford Bronco 351 Windsor Phi 8. The second-generation Bronco was a tank with personality. Underneath, it was basically an F-Series truck, and the 351 Windsor Phi 8 made it sing. This engine had been around since the 60s and had earned a reputation for toughness. In the Bronco, it delivered a great balance of torque, durability, and ease of maintenance. Off-roaders loved it because you could climb rocks all day and then drive home without worry. Hunters used them to reach the most remote spots. The 351 Windsor was forgiving. You could run cheap gas, forget an oil change or two, and it would just keep running. Even after 200,000 miles of abuse, it would still idle smooth. It wasn't fancy, but it was dependable, and that's what counts. 9. 1981 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ60 4.2-liter 2F engine. If you were planning to drive around the world, this was the truck you wanted. The FJ60 came with the 2F straight 6, a slow, heavy, overbuilt beast of an engine that was basically impossible to kill. People took these across deserts, jungles, and mountains with minimal parts and no backup. They ran in triple-digit heat, freezing cold, dirty fuel, and still just kept going. The engine wasn't about power. It was about outlasting everything else. Owners have clocked in over 400,000 miles with just basic maintenance. These Land Cruisers were so tough, they're still in use today in remote outposts, safari tours, and overlanding expeditions. Toyota made this engine to last, and it shows. 10. 1991 GMC Sierra 5.7-liter TBI V8. The throttle body injection, TBI 5.7-liter V8 was a beautiful mix of old and new. It had the electronic injection benefits of modern engines, but the simplicity of classic American V8s. That's why mechanics loved it. It was a breeze to work on, and you didn't need to be an engineer to figure it out. These Sierras ran forever because the engine design had been perfected over decades. Farmers, firefighters, and city workers all put these trucks through the ringer, and they held up. 300,000 miles wasn't unusual. If you kept up on the fuel filter and oil changes, it was nearly unkillable. That's why you still see them pulling trailers and hauling loads today. 11. 1983. Jeep J10 AMC 360 V8 Jeep's full-size pickup, the J10, was built for harsh use. And with the AMC 360 under the hood, it could handle just about anything. This engine had gobs of torque and the kind of mechanical simplicity that made trail repairs possible with basic tools. Logging roads? No problem. Backcountry trails? Bring it on. The 360 wasn't about efficiency, it was about strength. It could run hot, dirty, or low on oil and still get you home. A lot of these engines never saw a garage, just good old backwoods wrenching. They earned their stripes the hard way, and they still have fans today. 12. 1973 International Harvester Scout 2 345 V8. Here's the one most people forget, but maybe the most indestructible of them all. The 345 V8 in the Scout 2 was built by International Harvester for serious work, tractors, buses, heavy trucks. When they dropped it into the Scout, they created something special. This engine was overbuilt for a light truck, which meant it basically never failed. Thick block, durable crank, massive torque at low RPMs. You could haul a horse trailer up a mountain, then idle in traffic for hours, and it wouldn't flinch. Even with poor fuel and rough roads, the 345 kept going. The body might rust, but the engine, it just laughed. This is one of the most underrated power plants ever, and the trucks still out there are proof. So there you have it, 12 vintage trucks with engines that just won't die. They weren't about screens or apps or Wi-Fi. They were built to work, to haul, to climb, and to last. And decades later, they still do. If you've got a story about one of these trucks, or think we missed a legend, drop it in the comments. And hey, if you love trucks that eat 300,000 miles for breakfast, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because we're just getting started.